Okay.
All right, so let me know when. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk, it's knowledge, and we will be talking today. And I'm joined today by her. We haven't been on in ages, so we are
So,
back on.
oh,
Leslie
sorry.
Price, the darling Leslie Price, is with us again. She just got back from a couple weeks in Australia. We just got back from a week in Hawaii, and it's good to see you again. How have you been?
Good, good. The house is now, I was doing the house renovation.
Hmm.
It's virtually done now. All I need is carpets and curtains, and everything is sorted. Australia was wonderful, just really nice to be able to. I went to Adelaide, Canberra, Ballarat, Melbourne, the Mornington Peninsula, all in 2 weeks.
Wow, you
I'm
did a lot. You did a
exhausted.
lot of traveling.
Just one day.
That's pretty good. Well, let's start our intro, and then we'll get the show going. And we are back, and look who just joined us in that center position of power. You all know him. It's Bryan Jones from www.elearningart.com. And Bryan, it's been a while. How have you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me on. I think it was about a year ago that we did our last show together. So thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you got the two grumps with you again, talking about trends.
Yeah, I've been all trends for the last couple of months.
I'm the grump.
It scares me talking to Leslie about trends. She's the anti-trend. Although Leslie, so I in the trends survey, your trend is moving up, which is the anti-trend. So number 14 was too much chasing of trends, which you're the trend setter on chasing trends.
Oh, no, 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 no.
So actually, that was a trend, chasing trends?
Yeah, so I basically, from the first year that I did it, I kind of used the top 20 as options to choose from, and then offered an opportunity for people to write in their own. And with an option of too much chasing of trends, that actually moved up as a trend. So that's
interesting.
ironic.
Now, I have to apologize to you, Bryan, because you've sent me survey requests and some other stuff, and I haven't gotten them till about a day ago when I realized that half the people I know and like were in my junk. I don't know what happened. It just, everybody got moved into junk. Out of curiosity, I was looking in my junk to see what's going on. I'm missing people calling me saying, hey, you haven't responded to my email. I never
thought
got
you were
it.
just pissed at me.
And I never got them. And then they were all there. And I went, oh, Microsoft, thank you once again for your updates. I don't know what caused it.
Gotta love technology.
Yeah, I tell you, it's nasty, and I don't even junk people. I don't say Marcus junk. I don't. We have a spam box that does that. So you got through the spam filter, but it gets in, and then my OWA, which is my Outlook Web Access, just puts half the people in junk. And I was going, what is going on? So I had like 4 emails from me with surveys, and never saw them. So I apologize for that one.
Oh, no worries. Well, you're having me on here to talk, so that's a good thing.
Yep. So right now, I heard you just did a giveaway, and
yes,
you're going to announce the winner.
That's right. So I did the largest giveaway I've ever done. I've called in all the favors I could. So we've got the total prize value was over $12,000. Had prizes from people like Ray Jimenez for his micro-learning workshop, video from Camtasia, and TextMa's other product, Snagit, and explainer video software. Had stuff for mobile and XAPI and a bunch of crazy stuff. A 10-year license to the eLearning Art Library. Anyways, I drew the winner last night and have not announced it yet. And pleased to announce that the winner is Rosa Wolfersberger. So I will be sending Rosa an email to let her know that she is the winner of everything. So she's got a whole bunch of e-learning stuff to play around with.
Wow, that she does.
Year.
Well, congratulations, Rosa, for winning the giveaway.
Yeah, it was a fun one to do. Oh, Leslie, I think we can't hear you right now.
No, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
That's pretty good. Well, Rosa just got herself a whole mess of toys to play with.
Yeah, she did.
That's pretty cool. There's nothing worse than at the end of the year when we're using investing for tax savings, and we buy a lot of cameras and gear and audio stuff, And then we've got like 30 boxes and we don't even get to it. It's like 6 months later, oh no, we bought that. We forgot. Let's open it up, see what we have. It's such a pain because
You always have, Rick, you always have the best toys, though.
we have a lot of toys here. We do have
Yeah.
toys because there's a thing called, I think, Rec or Section 178 or 179, which allows you to invest up to 500,000. We invest like maybe 40 or 50. And then when we do that, we can buy gear and you write it off totally that year. So that's a major savings on taxes.
So what's
And-
your favorite toy? What's your favorite new toy?
Well-
You guys are obviously not Scottish. I'm
No,
sorry.
no. I'm almost anti-Scottish the way I spend.
Don't do that.
Now my wife could be cheap, but she spends too. So I don't know. My Leslie is not
no.
that. She'll spend. She just makes believe she doesn't spend. But no, favorite toys. We bought a pretty good line of Sony full-frame cameras and lenses. They're pretty amazing. It's the first time we've gone Sony in a long time, and the quality of the video and everything.
For still or for video?
They're both. So we have the Sony A9, the Sony A7 III Mark III. We have the A65. So we ordered 3, and plus a new webcam. Camcorder that's very good. The NX80. So we bought those for this. What you're seeing me on right now is a Canon XF405. That's also a 4K camcorder. We're not doing 4K right now, just 1080p. But so yeah, that's the kind of gear that we buy. Plus, we also bought a very large Dell virtualization server, so we have like 3 virtual machines on it, and we're getting into that. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah,
anytime I need new tech, I send you an email.
Call
With
me, we'll
the
talk.
headset. The funny thing is, here I am with my $20 headset. I have the same headset you recommended for me, but I was sometimes I just find it's easier to plug in the USB and go with this.
Yeah.
It
Now
doesn't look as cool, but it actually works all right.
Now what I've got, you see, is very small.
Yeah.
That's a DPA ear set, and it just goes over one ear. And then I have earbuds that connect into our headphone amp. But the DPA is a really nice, very light, weighs nothing. You can move your head around. Your voice never changes. And
I think you recommended before, like the Rode.
Can you hear me okay?
yeah, you sound fine.
Yeah. I'm not using a headset.
What are you using?
Hey, how about
I'm
that?
just using, I'm using standard speakers, I'm using a standard mic, I've got a standard video cam, and you know what?
What?
It all works.
Yes. But it
Keep it
doesn't
careful.
work as well as ours. Remember, it's all about how you feel with it. You feel good, so you're good. Actually, you sound okay. But yeah, these things are expensive. Like this one
Leslie,
here.
you can't talk about the model numbers in the year and all that when you're talking about your technology.
Yeah.
Well, my father, the only reason I got into technology was my father was a gadget man. So my father had every gadget possible, going back to when I was like, 2-3 years old, even before 1 year old. My father had a cine camera before there was even videos and anything. My father had a reel-to-reel what they call projector that he used to put all the big films on. He used to go and hire these films on reel-to-reel. So I can't remember any of the names, but he had them all.
Wow. Now we are getting a sound from your, I don't know what it is. It might be the computer. There's like a high-pitched little bit of a screech.
I've got no noises going on in the background. Absolutely
No,
nothing.
it sounds like it might be digital noise. It might be the computer. Not. Can you hear it, Brian?
Yeah, I hear it's like a high-pitched whistle.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to equalize it, but it's not coming out.
It's not as bad as my last live stream. I had that the half-second delay where I could hear myself talking right after I talked.
Right. Yeah.
And I couldn't concentrate on anything. It was so tough.
So you just did your latest trends thing. What are some of the trends that you found this time?
So micro learning came in at number 1.
Number 1.
Yep. And video was 2. AI was number 3. Last year I had grouped both augmented reality and virtual reality together. This year augmented reality came in at 4 on its own, and virtual reality is 7 on its own. So
Interesting.
they were still pretty strong. Number 5 was mobile. 6 was XAPI, and that cracked the top 10, and that one actually surprised me. People have been talking about XAPI for a long time, but it kind of seems like there's more of a movement now towards tracking data in a way that it hasn't been done. I don't think it's something that everybody's doing today, but I think it's something that's starting to see finally a little bit more adoption.
Now, I'm curious, you mentioned AI, artificial intelligence. Now, that's sort of interesting because, it seems like the whole human race is becoming dumber and dumber as we speak sometimes. But so artificial intelligence may be our only salvation, but there's not much in the world of e-learning with AI. So
it's interesting if you look at like our personal lives.
I'm sorry, what?
There's a lot going on.
In AI?
Yeah.
Okay, we haven't seen too much in AI.
All you do is speak to people like Donald Clark or Marco Pacini. There is an awful lot going on.
And Donald Clark is very much like, if you look at our personal lives, there's so much AI that's involved with Facebook algorithm and what's showing up in your feed and all that other stuff is interesting. So one of the things on this trends, I picked up something from Leslie with not liking all the trends and tried to do something practical this time. So for each one of these, it was like, okay, great, AI is a trend. What do you do about that? Like, what can you do? Some of them are easier to implement. Some of them are harder to implement. But one of the tutorials that'll come out in the next month or two with AI is creating your first chatbot. So
interesting. Because to me, AI is something like an automated feature which can interact with you, can recommend different ideas, can look at what you're saying. Think back, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there was a program years ago called Eliza. And Eliza was one of the first artificial intelligence programs. This is back in the 70s it came out. And it would say something like, "Hello, Rick, how are you?" And you would say, "Hi, I'm fine. How are you?" And it says, "I am perfectly fine. How do you feel about your mother?" "Huh, what?" My mother's fine. "Do you dislike your mother?" "No." So it kind of went into a Freudian analysis of you as you were doing, but it was funny because it came sometimes with things out of nowhere, but all it was a set of heuristic algorithms, if you will, and tables that kept track of your responses, and from there would throw them back at you at different times when whatever you said matched what it was looking for. So it wasn't 100% natural in terms of natural language or natural, but it was an interesting attempt at trying to communicate back to you in a somewhat natural fashion. Now, we've gotten way past that since then, but if you look at the authoring tools, there's not a heck of a lot of artificial intelligence built into them. So you've got to look at other ways, like you said, like a chat box type thing or something to be able to leverage that. So are we talking tools? Are we talking just ideas of AI? What do you see?
I think there's something, it's tied in with some of the data, like we were talking about XAPI, without, once there's more data being collected, I think some things will happen. I don't think it's something that your average or typical e-learning developer is like, oh, I'm implementing AI and that's going to be how everybody learns in our organization. But certainly from thinking about content curation or chatbots or what could be happening in the future, that's definitely something that can happen. And the chatbot, what you're talking about is actually very similar to a chatbot, right? It's an automated voice thing. I think it was in the 90s. There's a really good Radio Lab podcast that talks about this, where they thought this was going to be the breakthrough in therapy, right? Like everyone would have their therapy coach that they would call into, and it was basically just questions like that. It would just keep asking questions after question, and people would. It didn't take off how they thought it would, but they thought it was going to be big for a while. But yeah, I think in our personal lives, there's so much going on, and there's so much content. I mean, just looking at the e-learning space and how many articles are released today, you've got, I don't know, 150, 200 e-learning blogs, many of them posting multiple times a week. So now you've got, before it was like content aggregators, right? Like let's pull all the content together. Well, oh my gosh, that's a lot of content. Now you need like content curators, and that can be a human. So I look at some of the best content curators, like Mike Taylor. Every tweet or everything that he's pushing out, it's like, oh, that was cool. David Anderson is another person who's curating content where I see what they've done and I'm like, I want to read that. But the content aggregators you're looking at, it's like, okay, I can't read 400 articles in a week. It's just it's not doable.
Information overload, right?
Have you come across a service called BuzzSumo?
Yeah, BuzzSumo is really cool.
Yeah, because that's a friend of mine, Steve Rayson, and Stephen Walsh. It's what they do. I mean, they've now sold on the service, but what Steve did with BuzzSumo is exactly that. It's the content curation, and then you put in what you're looking for, and it does the job for you.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not surfacing everything. Like, it's not 400 articles that are recommended. It's like, here are the top ones and BuzzSumo is ranking them by a whole bunch of social factors. It'll look at what are the total number of shares that have happened across various social platforms. It's pretty neat.
Now, we talked a little bit about this pre-show, and that's a lot of the trends are renamed or rehashed trends of the past. So we changed the name a little bit. Gamification's been around as different words like interactivity and this and that. But it's all similar stuff, and yet there are some differences. AI's been around for a long time, but it was never used that much, at least openly, in certain areas. What do you think? Where do you think the real new stuff is in terms of? I mean, you have augmented reality, virtual reality, and there's been a lot of people living in those states for many years, just in the world. They're not quite here, but how do you see that working? I can see virtual and augmented reality working in training very, very well, but we're only at the beginning of it, I think. We're still not there. You still need headsets or whatever else, or glasses or whatever else you may need. Where do you think that's going?
Well, it's interesting. So one of the follow-up articles that I'm doing on the VR front, Danny Stefanik from LearnBright, he led me through a tutorial where I entered their virtual world, and it can be headset. You can use a headset, but it's not headset only. Okay. And it was really cool to see some of the stuff that he was doing, and that'll be another tutorial. It's one that I haven't published yet, but got in there and did that, and there's definitely some potential on the VR side with being able to run. For me, it's like running scenarios is a really cool thing to do on the VR front. The AR thing before this year, I was kind of meh, like, okay, that's cool, but nobody's ever going to be able to do that. But just like last week or 2 weeks ago, I started. So the latest iPhone update. So you look at the big players and what they're doing and what they're making available with Google, with Apple, with Microsoft. They're all going after AR, mixed reality. Yeah. In the latest release of iOS, you have the augmented reality features in your phone, and there's apps that are already being built. You can drop I think one of the things I was doing, I can't remember the name of the app, but it was like a chair and how to assemble it. And I could drop it on my floor with my phone, and I could walk through step by step.
That's pretty cool.
And I could spin it around and look at it from any angle. And it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And same thing, there was another one that it was a dance app. So you actually would point your phone, you'd hold it in front of you, and you'd point your phone down at the floor, and it would recognize where your feet were. And then it would show you where your foot should go for the next dance move.
That's cool.
So there's just, I mean, you think about, again, it's one of these things where I don't think like the typical e-learning developer is going to have a budget to develop their own augmented reality app, but it is now, like, people are betting big. Big players are betting big on augmented reality, and you're not talking about wearing headsets for everything. We all are carrying an augmented reality device in our pockets.
That's pretty cool.
And you're going to be able to do so much on your phone. And I think it was good. Like, Google dropped whatever, I can't remember the name of the old platform, but they launched, it had to be on a certain Android phone, and it had to have some sort of special accelerometer, blah, blah, blah. They moved away from that and said, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're going to make it so that every phone can do it. And it's crazy. It's like hundreds of millions of phones this year coming out with augmented reality. So that's the one that I look at. It's like, all right, not everybody in e-learning is doing that, but the potential is huge. And I think it's pretty exciting. And I wasn't a believer.
It's a category that sort of simulation and virtual reality is a category I've judged the last couple of years, when I'm a judge on the Learning Technology Awards in the UK, which used to be the eLearning Awards, and now the Learning Technology Awards. And I say I've judged that category for a couple of years, and it's amazing what some of the things that get submitted. Some have a long way to go, but I mean, there was one year, I can't remember, it was last year, that the one that the historic palaces, so the historic palaces in the UK, they had this simulation AR VR thing where when you're going around the palaces, your device interacted with different things in the room and actually brought history to life. And it was just phenomenal what they were doing. Absolutely phenomenal, particularly for for younger children. That they had it to try and bring the history alive. So the child would look at this portrait, and suddenly the portrait would be talking to them.
Interesting. Huh. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so like from a virtual tool or from a virtual tour standpoint, that stuff is really neat. How you can kind of blow away the experience for the user, and then I think on the performance support side, for sure, there's some really huge potential.
Well, it's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine who worked on this project for a major cruise line, and they wear a medallion. Everybody gets a medallion when they go into the cruise, and as you walk around the ship, it opens doors. It communicates with devices. It can turn on TVs or movies. It can let you into things, keep you out of things, and it's just a little thing. But it's almost like a biometric device, but it's also tied into everything on the ship. And he was saying it's been highly successful. People love it because, again, it's very Star Trek-y. Doors open up, things turn on, they turn off, and you don't have to do much. It basically interacts just by your presence. It is kind of interesting.
The Star Trek is an interesting example to bring up. They weren't too far off from like a Hey Siri standpoint, right? Like they were talking to the computer and it was talking back to them and executing commands.
Yeah.
So we're doing that now.
Yeah, that was in 1964 and 5. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so Roddenberry had a good vision for where the future was going, and it's almost amazing how close he approximated many of those things. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and I
what
think.
other trends? What other trends have you seen then?
Well, so the interesting one that dropped off was that Rick, you were just talking about a second ago, was gamification. That was probably the biggest surprise for me, and I don't know if that's because people are now implementing gamification stuff more, or if it's just not as buzzy right now. But I think
or they don't like the word.
What?
They maybe just don't like the word.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting. Like the gamification, there's the whole side of it with like the points and the badges and all that other stuff that I'm not as interested in. But if you look at like content gamification with creating intrigue and using story and characters and choice and feedback and all that stuff, that's the core part that is good e-learning. But maybe it's the points and the badges, or maybe it's just it doesn't sound as cool anymore. But last year it was cool. This year it's not.
I think it comes down to something a little more basic. It costs too much. In many cases, to develop a really good story, you need a good writer. And most instructional designers are not really good writers. They're not writers many times. They're designers of training, which is different. A lot of times they're good at creating the objectives and the outlines of everything that needs to go in, but writing a story is a different kind of training usually. And I've always said for years, they should be taking script writing or screenwriting courses, because it'll make them think differently about how a story goes. And that's not where the training. Most instructional designers have never had any training in storytelling at school. They just don't really cover that enough. And then you start looking at the graphics, you're looking at animations, you're looking at elements of interactivity, and that 1 hour or half hour piece that was fairly cheap before now is double, triple in price. And that's where you're seeing, that's why movies cost so much. When you look at the credits and you have 500 or 1,000 people on one movie, you go, that's a lot of people being paid. It's not so much in e-learning, but there still is an extra cost. There's extra time in delivery, and the results aren't as good always as people expect it, because when you come down to the productivity and the performance enhancements of the individuals taking it, unless they have a real good form or way of measuring that performance improvement, and I'm talking corporate e-learning now, not personal e-learning, which is different, you may not get what you're putting out for money-wise. And I think that's what a lot of people are seeing, that it costs more, it takes longer, and the ability of the staff or even of the consultants they bring in isn't always up to speed with what they need to make it engaging.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's definitely some cheap ways. So being a good story writer and knowing how to write a hook and put all that together is a super important thing. But even if you're not a good storyteller, there's ways to bring stories in. So
sure.
I think it's a conversation I had with Cami Bean, where she was talking about the role of the instructional designer and working with the subject matter expert is to actually extract stories from people who are doing the job. So like, what are the real stories? What are things that people can learn from? And a lot of times that's the sort of stuff that like amazing instructor-led training workshops, like they're able to share those stories, the stuff that's not on the slides. And sometimes we lose that in the e-learning stuff, but some of that's so easy to do. I mean, you can, what we're doing right now, even if they're not in the same location as you can have them tell a story, and that a story can be 15, 30 seconds, a minute long. And you can record it in tools. Like, I don't know, I was asking you before the show started what platforms you're on, but I've been using Zoom a lot as my like personal meeting and webinar software. But it's like on their free version, they give away so much value. You can do 40-minute interviews. You can record it. It will convert it to an MP4. So I mean, all these interviews that I've done over the past.
Brian, we have news for you. They don't seem to stop you at 40. We've done an hour and a half and they didn't stop us, and we're not paying.
That's
going,
true. I haven't been cut off either. I'm on their paid plan because I had a couple of large meetings where there was like 75 people, and I didn't feel like I could risk getting cut off at the 45-minute mark. So I'm on their pro plan. But I've just found that to be one of the easiest tools to use, and especially like these interviews. I do weekly group calls in their virtual meeting software, but then I do one-on-one calls where it's just like this, but I record it and have a conversation, have it record, have it convert to an MP4, upload it to YouTube, and I'm done. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Zoom is great. Actually, I think Leslie right now is on Zoom. Because Skype was failing us, and with Zoom, we've gotten much better results in terms of sound quality and everything else, whereas Skype was, painful.
Yeah. So that's actually how I got turned on to Zoom. I was trying to do my first recorded video interview, and I installed some third-party Skype plugin, and I spent hours trying to figure it out. And right before the call, I was like, I can't do this. This isn't working. And I did an interview with Sam Rogers, who's big into video. And I switched it over to Zoom, and we did it, and there was no problem, and it recorded and was super easy.
Yeah, it's much nicer than WebEx or GoToMeeting or any of those. It just runs beautifully. I'm not even sure where they're headquartered out of, but it's a great product.
They're based in San Jose, and actually, it's a former WebEx guy. Like the founder was like their big tech guy on WebEx for a decade. Cool. And he spun off and wanted to make this like the easiest web conferencing software out there. And there's so many too. Yeah, there are. I did a survey of my users on video screen capture tools, on screenshot tools, and then on webinar software, and all of them, it blew my mind. Like the screencast tools, Camtasia was by far the number one, but there were 60 different tools that were listed. And the webinars, I can't remember exactly how many tools, but it was definitely 30 plus. There's so many pieces of software out there to do all these things. It's hard to figure it all out.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, we are almost.
That also means that those of us involved in learning technology actually do to stay up to date. I think a lot that goes on, and an awful lot too, is if you're a learning person, you tend to talk one language, but whereas a lot of the language that's coming up when you're talking about these tools is IT language. And very often I used to describe myself as a translator, because it could be very difficult for people to understand what the IT words were compared to what the words in learning would be, compared to what the actual user or the learner or whoever is, the person receiving all the information, they don't necessarily understand it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, we are actually at the end of our time. Um, we've got to get you on again, Brian, a little sooner than a year.
Yeah, anytime.
So, because we never finish, we there's always more to talk about. And in fact, I'll have Sarah give you a call and see if we can get you on sooner and continue this like in the next month or so. Because I think the trends. You also did another survey not long ago that was pretty interesting. I'm trying to remember which one that was. I thought you did a second one, a different. It wasn't just trends. Maybe I'm wrong, but
So there was the trends. There was a trends expert roundup post, and then there was I did a survey of users on those 3 tools. I think those are the last ones that I did. But yeah, it's always interesting to see what everyone is actually using and doing.
yeah,
And it's surprising. Actually, and one of on the video recording thing in our industry, a lot of people just use the tools that they have. So there were a lot of people who were using both Storyline 360 products and Captivate. Those were number 2 and 3 for video, and that surprised me because I don't think of those as video tools. But same thing, like PowerPoint was on there. Most people don't think of that as a video tool, but you can do screen recordings, and you figure out how to do what you need to do with the tools you've got.
Right. Fun. Well, anyway, we appreciate you having on. Rosa, congratulations. You won a big prize.
Yeah.
Rosa, no whammies. Big money. All
right. That's good.
I'll follow up with an email to you, let you know that you're the winner, and start getting you all your stuff.
That sounds good. And Leslie, I'm glad you had a great time on vacation. And did you get to meet everybody, like Con and Helen Blunt and everybody?
Oh, no, not this time.
No.
I actually just I just spent time with family and friends. So it was purely non-work. My son has been working over there for 15 months.
Oh, okay.
So it was nice seeing him, and I've got another very good friend. So I actually took some time off from work.
Good. That's good.
Sometimes you need to.
You do. How's Learn Appeal doing?
Absolutely phenomenal.
Great.
Phenomenal. We're about to send the capsules out to Kenya along with tablets. I've been in touch with the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and I must give them a plug because they very kindly sent us, completely unasked for, a brand new, the newest version of the Raspberry Pi, and they sent it to us 2 days after it was released. And that actually came from I'm speaking to the senior research person there, and he actually told Eben Upton, who runs Raspberry Pi, and he's very, very interested in what we're doing, and suggested that we were sent the brand new version. So you've got to say thank you to Raspberry Pi for doing that, because it's not something we asked for. They just did it as part of support.
That's great. We'll get you on a show soon, and we'll do one with you where you can talk more about Learn Appeal. It's been a while since we talked about it.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
That would be good, especially since we're now at field pilot stage. Because that is going to be that's going to be where the proof will be in the pudding, if you want to call it that, or the proof will be in the capsule.
Yep, that sounds great. Well, for all you people watching and in the chat room, thanks for being there. And by the way, Harold, did we have anybody in the chat room talking? Not today. That's typical, but work time, it's always tough getting people in the chat room.
I've been on for a while though, Rick, so people are probably, going to have to get
That's
used to
true.
it.
That's true. The notices are going out, but that doesn't, and it's also work hours for a lot of people, depending where they are. So anyway, we appreciate you watching. Subscribe because subscribers help us. So just subscribe because that keeps YouTube letting us do things. Anyway, have a good one, everyone. Thanks for being there. And Brian, as always, a pleasure. We'll have you on real soon again. And good to have you back, Leslie. We will see you soon, too.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Thanks, Leslie.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.